Hello everyone, it's Eric with a new rap battle ranking. Today we are covering Shimario's rap battles. We'll jump right in after noting this is only going to be the 6 YouTube battles, and most of these are really good, so take this all with a grain of salt. Let's begin. Number 6, last place, Paper Mario vs Mr. Game & Watch. This, unfortunately, comes and goes in my mind as a battle. I imagine it's a bit of an older project. It came out in the year of 3 great battles, so it sticks out like a sore thumb for 2023. However, it's not without merit, but most things do keep it from being particularly good. When viewing, I found myself mostly bored by the Paper Mario verses, with more lines making me cringe than smile. The worst is definitely, Sakurai's back must be tired from carrying you, or whatever he said. That's the kind of joke that works best in comment sections and college humor videos from 13 years ago. It's also worth noting that many syllables have to be stretched in certain parts, and it's extremely rough and frequent. The worst example of this is Game & Watch saying Nintendo supports its product lines, to rhyme with spotlight. I think it would have actually been more interesting if Game & Watch had said product line and spotlight. I think that would have sounded better. Part of the emphasis issue continues with the Mario performance. Danny does a commendable job trying to pull off the tough high-pitched Mario voice, but it mostly doesn't sound great, and he had to strain at certain parts where the impression took priority over the flow. While I think it's nice that Danny tried to match that energy, and it would have sounded worse if it was just Danny's normal voice with better flow, but I still don't know if he was the right cast for it. So what do I like about the battle? Well, Game & Watch has a very solid first verse, honestly. It's all around pretty decent. Definitely not the best Shimario verse, but lines such as, "Forget a 9, I'm a perfect 10, and the only time you got to scrap was in Nintendo's trash can," are pretty fun. Simple puns, but they are effective and they do stick with me more than most other lines in the battle. The rhyme schemes are also at their best here, in both the writing and delivery departments. The opening scheme is good, and the triplets, while a bit rougher and not anything new for rap battle flow, are still better than most of the other flows in the battle. Maybe that makes them seem better than they actually are, I don't know. This is a bonus battle, so the video is basic, but it's still well edited, and honestly, the Paper Mario art from Epic Monkey is my favorite art in any Shimario rap battle. That's the only superlative this one gets though. It's definitely, in one other superlative actually, the worst of Shimario's catalog. Number 5, Winnie the Pooh vs Snorlax. This is a big jump from 6th, and realistically it should be a spot higher. We'll get to that later. This was made in 100 hours, and I applaud the team who worked on it for getting it done in that short time. But as a result of that, this is a bonus, so there's little to say about the video. It's clearly the 5th best video at best. The beat is also nice, but Shimario tends to choose nice beats in general, and I think this is also the 5th best beat. The most important aspects for this justification are the writing and performances. This was written by 5 people who I assume all contributed at least a few lines, and due to that, the writing feels more like a collection of lines than a cohesive battle, but it's still a lot of good lines. Some of these quick jabs, like, "You won't be the same after this, unlike your shiny," and "With the honey on your hands, I thought your punches would stick," and of course, Snorlaxative. Another thing I like is not really a pun or wordplay, but a line where they just say that Pooh made the film that made Disney scrap 2D. It's a pretty harsh one, honestly. I felt that as a fan of that movie. There are some lines in this I don't like, however. I find "You should call me Ash with how quickly I'm dropping you," and the pun "Parasite" to be kind of generic, and I think they should not have been sort of closers of schemes, because these are the halfway points for both of the verses they're in. Maybe they'd be better early on in the verses. All in all, the lines are fun, even if they are a bit more inconsistent than some other battles. The performances are the other note. Little Flex does a very solid job with Winnie the Pooh, a tough voice to nail for sure, and I think it sounds a bit quieter. When you're not using headphones, he's kinda hard to understand, but that's a pretty minor thing. It's a good performance, and it pulls off that balance of impression and flow better than Paper Mario. And then Shimario is Snorlax. I didn't realize it was him at first, honestly. He keeps that voice great, and it's goofier and makes it the standout performance of the battle for me. The whole battle is a very good one given the time constraint, and even if the most important aspect had a few too many cooks in the kitchen, they put out a solid result. Number 4 is Mario vs. Kirby. Okay, hear me out. This one is extremely rough in nearly every aspect. Honestly, the only thing that's definitely better than Paper Mario is the video, and I can easily see a case for this being last place. The voices here are incredibly flawed compared to Winnie the Pooh and Snorlax, the flow is barely more polished than Paper Mario, and the best parts are just more triplets. The video is great for its time, and still solid with some, honestly, excellent segments like the final one with the sprites being fun, but it doesn't match the top 3 at all. I've just listed a ton of serious flaws, but I haven't given a ton of examples of them or said why they held the battle back. The reason is, through it all, they don't hold the battle back. I must confess to a bias with this one. I saw it when it first came out, thought it was super cool. It had characters that appealed to me, and if I were to list the top 10 fan-made rap battles that most motivated me to make my own series, this is 100% on there. While that might compromise the agreeability of this ranking, I could not bring myself to put it lower. So now you're wondering why I like it so much in the first place. And the answer is that I was stupid and had no knowledge on what made rap battles good. But actually, there are some elements I think still hold up 2 years later. One is that there are just many noteworthy lines just as good as Snorlax, if not more. Many are simple, but if you're a superstar, I'm Superstar Ultra is a fun parallel. The American box art line is a cute reference that shows Shimario knew the characters well. The John Kirby reference is always a welcome joke for me. And the closer adds a bit of flair to the more common your win is in another castle kind of joke. These are all nice. They're clearly older lines, but they're still fun. I can't see any of these being in the finished product if a Shimario battle was made today that was Mario vs. Kirby, but I still like them. I also find that the beat fits the vibe of both series extraordinarily well. I mentioned that most Shimario beats are good, and this one, while maybe not technically better than the top 3, sounds like it could be in the OST of a Mario or Kirby game in my opinion. It has a happy vibe with nice horns in it, but it still fits well in a rap battle, with some parts being more intense than others, and that element I have no complaints about. The one aspect I have always actually disliked is the whole square is rapping scheme at the end of Kirby vs. 1. It has some awkwardly stretched syllables that are quite grating, and the overlap at certain lines means the flow is not well written enough to really justify the strained syllables. This part sounds bad, doesn't have good lines, but overall, I do love this battle. My reasoning probably won't be convincing any 2024 viewers that it's a great battle, but I can't help it. I love it for what it does right, and as Shimario's first battle on YouTube, it still holds up decently. Granted, it did earn a higher rank for being an important battle to me, rather than a particularly astonishingly good one. Number 3, Cemetery Mary vs. Preston's Hourglass. The top 3 are all excellent, but I'm very firm on each position. This battle was not made in 100 hours, but from what I remember, it was made in around 3 weeks, still a short time. Being a full video with custom art and backgrounds, that's still definitely impressive. And it's also much more polished than the previous 3 battles. For those who don't know, Cemetery Mary is a pretty good game that was introduced to a bunch of rap battle people by Garbage Gothic, who voices Mary in the battle. This performance is the strongest aspect of the whole project. Having seen a lot of the gameplay, along with some fan dubs by Garbage Gothic herself, I believe the mannerisms of the shy Mary were on point, and I love how she wavers between being more confident during some closers, and the schemes have a bit more stuttering to them when she's a bit more overwhelmed by the anxiety, but it shows that there is some variety in the character. I can definitely deem this the best performance in all Shimario rap battles, and along with the great attention to detail in the writing, art, and custom 3D background on the Mary side, that enhances it. Clearly, the team did their research, or they just became big fans of the game. Either way's a win, but the background is recreating the restaurant scene from the game, and it's one of many aspects that adds to this side of the battle being super faithful to the source material. Unfortunately, the much more popular game, Preston's Hourglass, was dealt a weaker hand. This side is okay, but somewhat boring and not as much to talk about. I think Fight Marker is fine as Preston, there's some funny deliveries, but certain parts could use more aggression, others could use more of the funny confidence, but besides, oh why hello there mortal, there's not a ton of super funny deliveries to me. The video is still good on this side, with some decent art from Cole to Cole, but it's mostly gray walls with a PNG Faithful to the game, sure, but not remarkable. I haven't talked about the writing yet, and honestly, it's drastically different from the last 3 battles because those have a lot of lines I can point to say I liked it, but it's more overall. This one lacks individual lines, but it flows much better as an overall project. The writing is stronger, but for things that do stick with me, I guess I like the line about Preston being frozen in time since Slender dropped, and the anxiety line is a pretty funny one. The idea of Mary stopping time in the Preston verse, that was a funny idea. It's not technically a line, but it was a great decision and it was incorporated super well. The line I dislike the most is how ironic that your vision ultimately blinded you. It's the big closer of this 4-line scheme, but it's delivered really well, but it's kind of groan-worthy in terms of the content, similar to the Paper Mario Sakurai's backline. All in all, great battle, with some exceptional highs for the Shimario series, and a clear passion for both characters, but it ultimately has more flaws than the top 2. Number 2, the original Starwalker versus the Navajo Skinwalker, an April Fool's battle, and it strikes an impressive balance. It stands on its own as a well-made, memorable battle that could have been great on any other day. However, it also has some hilarious concepts that feel like they could only be great in an April Fool's battle, so Shimario wins either way. I remember seeing a comment. It said, as a serious battle, Skinwalker wins. As an April Fool's battle, Starwalker wins. That's the perfect description. I'll explain why for each side. The Skinwalker side is very good in the conventional rap battle sense. Fight Marker gives an aggressive performance. It stays very consistent the whole way through. It's not an easy voice to do, but he pulls it off. More impressive is the writing on this side. It takes the best parts of all the previous battles and mixes them together to make 2 great verses. You have the good rhyme schemes of Cemetery Mary with no triplets that come out of nowhere or awkward pauses, but you also have a ton of strong zingers that are memorable like in Snorlax or Kirby, and they fit into the rhythm much better than those 2. A good example is the start of Skinwalker's second verse, ironic that star's a waste of space. It's a fun quip, easy to understand, star, space, you get it. It's simple, but it's effective like any line of the Snorlax battle would be. However, it's not even the whole line. It's just part of the first line in the verse that goes to have the waste of space, face to face, remain the same rhyme. It's phenomenal, and the punch is just as strong, if not stronger, than that first part. This is what I mean. Good lines that fit into the proper rhythm, and these show how far Shimario has come at this point when it comes to structuring the battle. On top of this, the second Skinwalker verse ends with him shapeshifting into Starwalker to diss himself. The Skinwalker voice echoes in the background and Starwalker says, "Anyone who's got ears knows I lost here." It's a fun idea just like with Mary stopping time, and it's another example of a brilliant creative idea that helps set Shimario battles apart. Over to Starwalker, these verses are super funny in the structure, true to the character. I looked up a few Starwalker cutscenes for the battle, and I find that they're executed perfectly. The pauses are the key part of this, of course. With the iconic opener, "Your rapping is so bad." Rappy's completely deadpan deliveries are way funnier than they have any right to be, and all of his lines, even the genuinely good ones, have the funny pauses or specific wordings that set them apart from those Skinwalker good lines. Things like, "Bro thinks he's Mothman." If Starwalker was played straight, it could have been something terrible like, "You're not fly like a moth, man." Both sides are super strong and aided by a solid video with strong art for both sides. BMB's rugged style fits the intimidating Skinwalker, and Valenide's more polished style is a great way to adapt Starwalker to rap battle art. There's little else to say on the video. It's another well-made PNG edit with not a ton of interesting moments or backgrounds, but all in all, the different approaches for the writing and the voices for each character are what work together beautifully here, and provide a much more consistently great battle than the previous 4. And while it's not quite number 1, it's still one of the best battles of last year. But number 1 is Ouija versus Tailsdoll. I just said Skinwalker's a great battle because both rappers are handled very well and creatively. That's not quite the case for this one. We have another 100-hour rap battle challenge, and right away, the biggest flaw is that the Ouija parts definitely seem to be focused on more. They're much better than the Tailsdoll parts, but fortunately, Tailsdoll is still almost on par with the best rappers in the other Shimario battles. You have Shimario doing another unique voice. but this one has more proper emphasis than Snorlax did, and it keeps the voice a bit better. It's also even more unique, a chilling one. It's just not what he does normally, and I would consider it his best rap battle role. But there's more to the verses than just the voice. The writing is even catchier than the previous two battles, and individual lines stick with me much more. I like YTPs a lot. I made a Michael Rosen battle after all, so I know a good amount of characters that are referenced in this, and I love these references. Things like "It burns." It's a good follow-up to the "Feel the Sunshine" reference, but also a callback to the Faces of Evil. Then you have "Dropping Sonic Hard R's," an excellent line. It incorporates Tails Doll into the line by referencing that game, Sonic R, which he's in, and it disses the fact that Ouija comes from a genre of videos that often had some questionable words. The custom-made plush for the battle is also impressive. I know it wasn't made for this battle, but I like the use of a practical doll in a 100-hour battle. It's fun to have that sort of live-action element there. The editing is also by far the best of any 100-hour battle I've seen out there, and if this went up on Gaming Plush 64's channel, outside of the challenge, I wouldn't bat an eye. Speaking of him, his beat arrangement is immaculate. The way the instrumental really kicks in halfway through the verse sweeps me up into the hype every time. It sounds excellent, and I turn into Josiah when this part starts. If you don't, I don't know, maybe you've been around the block a few too many times. But onto the Ouija verses, these are no doubt the best in any Shimario battle from my perspective. You have more YTP references, like rip the roofie off your head and use it to buy a bomb, being a fun one that leads into the visual of the explosion from SpongeBob that's always used in YTPs. The pause allows the reference to sink in for a moment, and the beat gets even more intense right before Ouija continues his rap. It's a brilliant way to structure it. I love how this thing just sucks you in with the high energy. Just the way Gaming Plush delivers the line, "Every single character that saw me is dead," hooks me like crazy. But because it's also using YTP characters, the more lighthearted lines that aren't super dark, like "I bet that you envy my YTP MVs," they fit better than they would in another atmospheric battle like this, with less goofy characters. And then there's a highlight of it all. I like Mary's stopping time and the shape-shifting, but nothing beats Ouija's sentence-mixing Tails doll to make him diss himself. It's a hilarious concept. It shows how Shimario had a clear passion for YTPs in the same way he had passion for the Mary battle. The sentence mixing is also just really good, and I can't believe that gag was all coordinated in 100 hours. They probably had the sentence mix the raw audio, and sync those parts to the video. I can't imagine how I would have tried to pull that off. It's actually incredible to me, and it's hilarious as well. I don't dislike anything about this battle. It sucks me in, shows knowledge of a medium I'm very familiar with, and blends funny and serious elements even more effectively than Starwalker. I'll also note that Ouija looking at the camera in the credits haunts my nightmares. Anyway, main takeaway here is that Winnie the Pooh versus Snorlax was good for being done in 100 hours, but this, 1 year later, shows great improvement and would be exceptional without the knowledge it was done in 100 hours. It's one of my favorites from 2023, and certainly my #1 rap battle by Shimario. Looking back, I discuss a lot of the same things in this ranking, especially in the best battles, and honestly, I think that shows that Shimario is becoming consistently great, coming into his own, and he's found the style of battle that he likes making the most. The last 3 Shimario battles have all had similar strengths, and no matter how quickly they were made, they've been very polished and impressive in production. Shimario is going places, and I look forward to whatever he's working on in 2024. Thanks for watching, comment down below your list, subscribe for more content, I'll see you next time.